If you're brand new to hand quilting, then you may be wondering exactly what stitches that you can try. Is it just a running stitch? Well, no, I've got 4 different types of stitches coming up to show you. So whether you like a structured approach or a more free-flowing approach, I have got a solution for you. Who am I? I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You, my lovely, are very, very welcome. So let's go find out what the first stitch that you can try is. So let's start with the easiest then, which is called contour quilting. And that is where we are following the path of the block and we're contouring round, if that's really a phrase, it probably isn't, but we're following the path of the edge of our block. And you can see here that I've just done a couple of parallel lines, and then again I've done another little couple of parallel lines there, and that's probably all you need to do with that one. So that's really simple, is your contour quilting. Next up is called echo quilting. So let me grab another sample and I'll show you that one. So next we have echo quilting. And admittedly, this is machine quilted, not hand quilted, but it is exactly the same process, other than you're doing it by hand and not by machine. So this is a Hawaiian applique. So if you haven't seen one of these before, they are really effective and they look really impressive, but it's a bit like making those snowflakes when you were at school. You know, when you folded up paper and you drew a pattern and cut around it? That's pretty much how you make one of these. One of these days I'll do a little tutorial on it and you will love it. Anyway, this is Hawaiian applique, and you can see here on my machine stitch lines that I have echoed the shape all the way round. If I hold that up close, you can see that as it's going all the way around the edge of the Hawaiian applique here. So you can do this by hand or by machine. So by hand, what you're going to be doing is marking out your lines, so it's an equal distance all the way around, or you can just eyeball it. You don't have to mark it, but if you want a nice straight line, you need to mark the line. Now if you watch my tutorial on how to get started with hand quilting, you will have heard me said, well, actually going in a straight line, you can follow the grains of the fabric or the grain of the fabric, but you can't really do that going around here. So what you need is a Hera marker. What is that, I hear you ask? And that is a very good question. So a Hera marker looks like something like this. And what they do is they essentially mark the fabric. So can you see here, if I just almost like draw in the fabric, it makes a little indentation, and you can't see that at all, can you? There we go. So just it's just a bit. Let's try the other one, shall we? I can see it closer to me. Let's draw a little line with this Hera marker. So what you're doing is making a little indentation. I think you can probably see that now. Let's move that up. Can you see we've got a little indentation in the fabric? And okay, that might not quite be so perfectly shown on the camera, but when you are stitching, it is just enough for you to see where you are, which line you're going to stitch, so that you can make sure that it is pretty much equidistant away from the edge all the way around. And you don't have to mark the whole lot in one go, and I suggest you didn't, because it will obviously puff back up again. So do a little section, stitch that, and then mark the next section. By the way, I know this is a video on hand quilting, but if you did want to do it by machine and you're wondering how on earth you keep that same distance all the way around, you use your walking foot, and you can see here where the needle would actually fall. Let's get my marker down. My needle will fall in the middle there, and it's actually, I use the edge of the foot to guide me around, and you'll notice that the distance between the edge of the foot and where the needle will fall is exactly where the stitch line. Let me just bring that up just a little bit further to show you. I can't do this with 3 hands. So you'll have to imagine where the needle will fall. But can you see the stitch line falls pretty much in the middle of my walking foot? If I shuffle it into position, it lines up pretty much with that red line in the middle of the back. Hang on. That line there is where your stitch line will line up to. So your needle will be in the central position, and as you're stitching round, keep the left hand side of your foot against the side of your applique in this particular case, or whatever it is that you are echoing the shape of. So echo quilting is really effective. So whether you're doing it by walking foot or by hand, it's a really lovely stitch to do. And I've got another one here. This is Celtic applique. Again, I've done this by machine. I didn't actually have any hand samples, but look, we can work together. You will understand what I mean. But this is the same thing. We've got a curvy shape of my Celtic applique here, and I have echoed the shape with my stitch line, both close next to my applique here, and then I've done a little distance away. And if you're wondering how I did the distance away with my walking foot, I used the walking foot guide, which is one of these things, and they slot into your walking foot like that, and then you can decide what the distance is. So what the distance is between where your previous stitch line is and where the needle falls, and you can use that guide accordingly. However, this is not the video for walking foot. I'm banishing the walking foot. This is all about hand quilting. So your hand quilting, same thing again. With this particular shape, we would mark where we want our line to go, and we would stitch that round with hand quilting. Right, so those are the two simplest. That's contour and echo. So let's get on to a couple more that you might want to have a go at. This one takes a little bit more practice, and it's called Sashiko. And okay, I'm not an expert at pronouncing that, but it's the Japanese stitching, and I love it. I am definitely no expert at this. Who you need, before I go any further, is Susan Briscoe, who is this lady here. She's got a book called The Ultimate Sashiko Source Book. I was going to say cookbook then. It's definitely not a cookbook. But you can see it's got all these beautiful designs in here. And basically with Sashiko, you mark out your pattern, and then you stitch along the lines. So perfect way of keeping your straight lines, but on a very simple way of doing it. You can see here I've just done a very simple little, it's a sort of crosshatch. It's not crosshatch in the normal way, because Sashiko has a few rules to it. So you don't meet your stitches. Your stitches all have to be a perfect length, and the gap between them has to be the same length as the stitch. And you can see I have definitely not done that here at all. Sashiko is one of those ones that I am trying to learn and get myself even on it. I just think it's completely beautiful, but it has some little rules. So your stitches have to be, as I said, the same length as the gap, and then you never cross the stitches unless it is a design to cross the stitches. But you can see that ordinarily we might just put a cross along there, but you can see that I leave a gap, so there's a stitch in between the two verticals, and then the stitches go in between, so it has a very definite look about it. It's really uniform and really structured. I mean, it is just a beautiful, I'm just throwing things all over the place. It's really a very beautiful hand quilting, hand stitching technique to do. So it's definitely worth getting that book. So that's a little sample I did on this sample that I've been teaching you hand quilting on. So have a go at that one. Here's one I prepared a little bit earlier. Which is a sample actually I did for my City and Guilds. But you can see here that they're all pretty straight lines. The pattern was marked on here beforehand, and then the stitching was done over that. This was done with a chalk. I can still see a little bit of the chalk left. But it's done in really straight lines and nothing touches. So when you've got a line coming up here, it should actually stop just below the gap. Or it should stop midway in the thread. So it's a very definite and defined pattern. But there's all sorts of patterns, and I really love it. Can you tell I really love it? I'm just not very good at it yet, but I hope this is enough to just inspire you to go and give Sashiko a go. Don't try and say have and Sashiko all at the same time, because that's not work. Well, it worked then, but it doesn't normally work. So Sashiko is one you could try. So that's number 3, and number 4 is a bit more free flowing. So for all you embroiderers out there, this one is definitely worth it. So what one is that? And this one is called Kantha stitching. And you're looking at the screen going, what on earth is she talking about? Because there is nothing on the screen. Okay, just bear with me for 1 second. So if you've got little squares, which we have, and there's nothing in this particular square, if you don't want to have any structured style of stitching, we can go, as I said, more free flowing and put a little design in it. And that is Kantha design, which is, ta-da, this one here. So Kantha design is an Indian technique, embroidery technique, and there's all manner of the natural world, I guess. So plants and trees and animals that you can stitch. And if you can't draw, trust me, I can't draw for toffee, but I found this pattern of a flower online somewhere, and I use that as my template. So again, you want to be using a tailor's chalk or a marking pencil that won't be left on your fabric, and you mark out where your pattern is going to go, and you have what is in this case nice big stitches. This is a stranded cotton, and I've used, I think it's 2 or 3 threads. I think it's three I can't say that. 3 threads. 3 threads. So it's a really dominant thread. It doesn't disappear like these ones here where we've just got a simple 30 weight thread. So you can see that's a bit lighter touch than perhaps when we've got a stranded cotton. Now this design, it was inspired actually, for those in the UK, Rochester, if I've got that right, Rochester lily ponds, which are in Pembrokeshire, and it's somewhere that my husband and I really like to go, and I think it's late May, early June. It's not a pond, it's like this massive lake, and it's just covered in all these beautiful water lilies. So if you're ever in Pembrokeshire at that time of year, it's very definitely worth going to check that out and go and see it. It is completely free to go to, and there's a long walk if you want. So you can make a short walk, a long walk, and I don't know why I'm doing a tour guide, but bear with me on that one. Take some inspiration from the outside, from nature. That's what I'm saying. Go outside into nature. That is very good for you anyway, but that's where the inspiration for this comes from. And really, all I've done is a very simple flower in the middle to represent my water lily. And as I said, I can't draw that myself, so it was stolen off the internet, and I just used the shape. And these are just very simple lily pads, and these lines are just lines to reflect a bit of the water. So you could do something like that, obviously not that big, that's a standalone sample, but there's no reason why you couldn't perhaps do, let's just say we were inspired by the lily ponds and we wanted the lily pads here. We could do lily pads in these sections here. There's no reason why you couldn't do that if you wanted something more free flowing. There's a lot of F's here. I'm going to fall over one of them. So Kantha quilting, definitely one to really have a play with and experiment with, particularly if you're a quilter that likes the more unstructured look. I know there's a lot of quilters who love the quilting, but they don't like the structure and the tessellation of traditional patchwork, and you want to go a bit more free in what you're doing. So this one might be for you. If you can't stitch a straight line for toffee, maybe this one is one for you because, hey, flowers and lily pads and whatever aren't ever straight, are they? So as I said, there are no rules with this. Go and have a play and experiment and find your level of creativity. I am not an artist, but I could produce something like this quite simply, and get it onto fabric and reproduce it. It really isn't that difficult to do. If I can do it, I promise you can do it too. Get yourself some stranded cotton. Just a little a little thing about this Kantha quilting, I was sort of very merrily stitching that, and what I didn't know was that this was glow in the dark thread, which, having stitched it, I left it on my sewing table, and I walked past my sewing room at night with all the lights off. I was like, what is that glowing on my table? And it turned out to be this. So get yourself some glow in the dark thread. It is really effective. So who knew that existed? I didn't know that existed at the time. I do now. So I really hope that has helped give you some inspiration with 4 different techniques that you can try with your hand quilting. So we've got contour quilting, where you just follow the edges of your blocks. You've got, or the shapes in your blocks. You've got echo quilting, where you echo around the outside of your shapes. Maybe they're a bit more of a free-flowing shape, like the Hawaiian applique or the Celtic applique. So where you've got shapes, so echo around the shape. We've got Sashiko, which is a much more structured Japanese style of hand quilting, which has some definite rules. So if you like all of that, definitely follow that one and check out Susan Briscoe's book. And then lastly, if you don't like structure at all and you don't want to follow any rules and you want to design your own stuff, then Kantha quilting is definitely something to explore, where you can take some inspiration from nature, any part of nature you like. A very simple, nice shape like my lily pad or like a leaf or whatever, and give that a go as well. So that might be perfect if you don't like straight lines. And talking of perfect or not, in the next video, which if it is scheduled and posted will appear just there about now, will be how to make the decision between, should I be hand quilting or should I be machine quilting? Which one is best for me? So that will take you through the pros and cons of both and which one might suit you best. So watch out for that one, and if it's up there now, go check that out and watch that now. And if that has helped, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I will love you and leave you for now and look forward to seeing you next time.